Hi everyone, it's Roger here from what's on DisneyPlus.com. It's Sunday, so it's time for the Q&A video where I answer questions from the YouTube and also Patreon community. But before we go any further, make sure you do hit that subscribe button to keep up with the latest Disney Plus news. So it's Sunday and it's time for the weekly Q&A video where I answer questions from our YouTube members, but also from our Patreons as well. Remember, you can do so from as little as $2 if you just hit that little join button if you're on YouTube, or head over to Patreon and you'll find what's on Disney Plus over there. So this week, let's jump into some of the questions. Jay on YouTube asks, there is quite a few original content on Disney Plus. Are you hoping any programming will be picked up for another season or sequel? So as far as the Disney Plus originals go, I think the first one that came to mind was kind of more the drama series, things like High School Musical, the series, Diary of a Future President. Now, both of them have already been picked up for a second season, so I'm hoping that will continue on with. But the big one for me I'd like to hear more about and maybe have a second season will be the Imagineering story. I think that is one of the best documentary series that we've seen on Disney Plus. I'd love to learn more about the theme parks, about the cruise line and everything that goes along with it. I think there's so much more they could talk about. I mean, I'd love just to have an episode about how the impact of the coronavirus has impacted things like that. I just really like this, or development of attractions, maybe slightly shorter episodes so they can kind of sort of churn out a bit more. But this is something I'd love to hear more about. I'm just a big park fan, so that was definitely one that stood out to me. I'd also like to see some more episodes of Prop Culture. I thought that was a really great documentary series looking at how they made movies, and Disney's got such a back catalogue. That one could be running for years, and I hope we see a lot more from Prop Culture in the future. Also on YouTube, Drew asks, what's a good Disney IP from the past that you think Disney could adapt into a new project, not counting the ones already in the works? Okay, so this is where I'm going to kind of dive into something maybe less Disney and more into the 20th century back catalogue, because there's a few there that I think Disney could really utilise. First off is Planet of the Apes. Now, I think there is another movie in the works, but I kind of, that one, we need to do something new. I think this would be a fantastic drama series for Disney Plus. Make it modern, make it, I just think that it's a series that could really work well, especially as a long-running series, because that's how it started before they did all the movies. Yeah, I just think Planet of the Apes could be something that would be a fantastic drama series for Disney Plus. It's definitely fantasy, it's definitely wacky, and also quite now, it kind of seems quite apt, the whole thing of people having a disease and, if you've seen Rise of Planet of the Apes, you'll understand what that whole thing goes on. But yeah, that one I think would be a great one. Also, Futurama, now whether or not they completely reboot it, but also maybe just bring it back as a Disney Plus original series. I think that could work really great for them to kind of bring that one in, because it feels like, while I know it's part of the Hulu animation thing, Futurama kind of, to me, fits more like into the Simpsons zone, because it would air after the Simpsons here in the UK in the evenings, and I don't quite associate it the same way as I do with Family Guy. So I think Futurama would be an amazing series for them to pick up and kind of continue on with the animation side of things. And also from the Disney side of things, I'm going to be picking here maybe Roger Rabbit. I would love to see them kind of expand on that character a bit more, and it might be a bit difficult with licensing stuff, but either some shorts or maybe a series of some kind. That would be something I'd really like. And also maybe a series about Maui from Moana, or I'd love to see an animation series like that, or maybe even something with Wreck-It Ralph. I think that could be a fun little series with them investigating different video games, and maybe each episode they go to a different video game. I think that could be cool, but whether or not they got anything in the works for that, I don't know. But yeah, those would be the IPs I would look for some new Disney Plus content. The Juice asked on Patreon, hey Roger, I'm wondering if you've ever caught the show Once Upon a Time. I've been hearing that it may be dropping onto Disney Plus soon, and I'm really looking forward to it. Do you think this will open the door for other ABC shows to show up on the service? Well, the good news for you, Juice, is it's actually going to be arriving onto Disney Plus in the US later this month. I think it's the 18th. Here in the UK, now we've got all 7 seasons. The last 3 seasons all dropped earlier this week. I am currently about 2/3 of the way through season 1. This was a show that I'd been wanting to watch for years. I saw it advertised when I was out in Walt Disney World a few years ago on all the buses and all the rest of it. Unfortunately, my wife did actually run on and watch the entire series on Netflix while I was at work one day, and so I just missed it. It was so many episodes, but I have been meaning to go through, and when it dropped onto Disney Plus, I did decide that was the time that I was going to get into it. You got all the characters. It makes perfect sense for it to be on Disney Plus. You've got all the Disney characters in there. Are we going to see more ABC stuff dropping onto Disney Plus? I think we will do. I think we're definitely going to see more of that dropping in, especially as we start going into the dry spell, when all the stuff that should have been filmed over the summer and the spring and maybe even the fall isn't being done. So therefore they're going to have to fill the hole, and raiding the ABC library could be a way of kind of giving that family content. And I think they'll be doing the same thing with 20th Century Studios, because ultimately you can't lose 6 to 9 months of production without having an impact, and that library is the way of them filling it in. Lauren on Patreon asks, when do you think the action figures for Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision will come out? The trick with the toys is they've kind of got to make sure they're out when the shows arrive, but also they don't want to spoil anything. So that's the trick with trying to get them out, whether or not we have 2 waves or even 3 waves of figures, where maybe we get the first wave when the first episode comes out, and then they have that extra wave maybe after the season ends. That could be one way of doing it. For example, we've seen what happened with The Mandalorian, where we didn't really have any of that Baby Yoda merchandise available for the first season, but we had a lot of the stuff for the main characters. So hopefully we'll see some stuff. I mean, even if they've just got Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then we've got also Wanda and also Vision, we kind of have those main ones and a few main characters. I think we will probably see them before Christmas. I wouldn't be surprised if they hit around then, so they're actually out and available before the episodes come on air. It may also make sense to get them out for Christmas. Things like the Falcon and Winter Soldier and, like I say, Scarlet Witch, Vision, just makes sense to get them out there. And we're going to start seeing this merchandise. They would have been ordered and ready probably to go out into stores maybe in August, but they've been holding it back. But I would expect waves of them. But I would be expecting to see them throughout 2021. I'll be honest, I am looking forward to... I'm definitely going to probably pick up some of the Black Series figures from Hasbro if they do them. I've got no doubt that they aren't. And I suspect as well we're going to start seeing other stuff, Hot Toys and some really nice ones. There's that kind of feeling of going, do we go all in on some of these ones? I've really been tempted lately by some of the Hot Toys figures and Sideshow toys, but I really think it's probably not best that I go into that because they're a little bit more expensive than the Hasbro ones. Jacob on Patreon asked, if Disney continues to put their back catalogue on Disney Plus at the current rate, how many years of drip feeding the content do you think they'll have? Ooh, this one's difficult because right now it feels like Disney are using the drip feed system to use up the ones that are on other services. It's almost like they've realised that they can kind of utilise that as a little bit of advertising without putting some of the other movies that aren't on there. I think they have got so many to choose from. I mean, if you've checked out the list that we have over on the website by Josh, who updates it every month, we've got like 350, 500 odd series and movies. I mean, at the rate they're doing it, they've probably got enough for 10 years. And that's not really even raiding, I think, the 20th Century Studios and kind of going into all of that. I wouldn't be worrying about them running out of stuff soon. They've got years left. There's still some big like series and movies that they've not kind of utilised, but I wouldn't think they're going to be running out for any time for a few years. I think they're fine on that. And the final question from Jacob on Patreon asks, do you think Disney might make changes to Hulu in the US which will make it look more like the upcoming Star service once they own 100% of Hulu, like only Disney owned content and possibly being part of the Disney Plus app? I'd love to have them both integrated in the same app interfaces with the opportunity to buy Disney Plus, Hulu, a Star, or both. So this is the thing with Hulu. It's very, very tricky for them because ultimately right now Comcast own 33% of the company, and now there is a deal for them to buy it out. And I think until that deal has been finalised and Disney have full control, nothing much is going to change because they've still got a few more years of contracts because ABC content is still available on Hulu and it's kind of shared with Peacock and it's very complicated. Hulu's still got lots of licensing deals, like the WWE stuff's on there. They've got loads of deals with like on-demand stuff from TV. So that aspect to it, I don't know how that's all going to change. But over time, Hulu is going to have to remove its reliance on this third-party content. And I think we are going to start seeing more and more of it coming on. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Hulu does become much more integrated with Disney Plus if you've got a subscription to Hulu and you're going to have access to a lot more content. It's very tricky. I think in some ways Disney are going to want to keep Hulu aside until they've sorted out Comcast. Internationally, it's so much easier. They can kind of integrate it with Star, and it's only going to be from the get-go their own licensed content. But yeah, I think the concept of Hulu and Star are going to become much more closer as time goes on. But until that purchase is made, it can't do. And if you're not aware of what Star is going to be, it's going to be basically it's like Hulu, but it doesn't have the live TV, it doesn't have adverts, it doesn't have any of the third-party content. It's literally content from ABC, Freeform. You've also got FX, Searchlight, and 20th Century Studios. So they're all going to be in there. It's going to be an add-on, possibly to Disney Plus, where you can add it within the app, and you kind of get more of the general entertainment stuff. But I think you're going to start seeing much more of a push on Hulu for that. But again, Disney don't want to be building too much credit into Hulu right now, because the bigger they make it, the more they're going to have to pay Comcast for that share. So yeah, right now it just seems that the attention seems to be on Disney Plus. And maybe, I don't know, I mean, this whole Premier Access thing has changed everything, but I do think Hulu is going to become more like that, with a lot more content from sort of the Fox side of things. Especially the trouble as well with not just with Comcast, they've also got that massive problem with HBO. They've got so many more existing contracts that they have to deal with in the US compared to internationally, where they don't have that problem. But nevertheless, there we go. So that is all the questions that we've had this week. Again, a big thank you to all of our supporters over on YouTube members and also on Patreon. It really does make a difference. And I love doing these questions stuff, a bit more personal, a bit more just sort of speculative. And we never know I never know what questions are going to be asked. So again, I'll be putting up another post for members and patrons for more questions next week. And as I said, go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Remember that you can help support the channel by hitting that little join button. And I shall see you guys in another video. Laters.